Hello everybody, this is today's video demonstration from Intuitive Hospitality. My name is Steve and we're going to work with Excel today and show you how to manage data in Excel. Data is a great spreadsheet application, and although there are a lot of great database applications out there, this is one system that you can also use for handling data. And we're going to give you an example of how to take that information and do some analysis on it using pivot tables. So the first thing you want to start off with any kind of data is you want to establish a structure. And there's going to be two elements. The first are the headers and the rows, which is where we're going to find our data. So we're going to start our header in row B, and we're going to put in our first column the date of the particular piece of information that we're capturing. We're going to have another column called the location, and we're going to have a description. And finally, we're going to have the amount. And we're going to use this information here to track our sales over a period of time from different locations as well. So we're going to bold our header just to identify that as a header, and I like to always lock that row as well. So we're going to go to View, Freeze our panes. And we're going to put a date in for our first transaction. We'll start off with today's date, which is the 8th of June, 2016. And your data can come from a variety of sources. And we're going to put a location. We're going to put in here Vancouver. And we're going to put a description, and we'll just call that item sales, and we'll have an amount of $50. Okay, and we're going to have another sale as well on the 7th of June. Again, we'll have that coming from Vancouver, and we'll have some more item sales, and we'll have that for $100. And let's do some more sales. Let's do one on the 9th of June. As well, and we'll have that one coming from Seattle. And you can have a variety of columns in here. This in particular case we're using a city, but you can add in state, province, country, postal code. We'll call this a service, and we'll do the service for $60. And let's put a couple more in here as well. Let's do one again on the 9th of June, and we'll do that also from Seattle, another service. We'll do that for $80. And let's put one more, and let's do the 11th of June. And we'll do that from, let's do that from Los Angeles. And we'll put that in as an item sales. And this information, again, can come from any system. It's a lot of flexibility as far as how you manage that data. So that's a data structure. Again, just to confirm, it's basically identified by the structure of the rows, which the header rather, which is the column descriptions, and then your data appears below that as a row structure. Now, as a general guideline, you always want to make sure that your data appears immediately below the header row. So if I insert a column here, for example, the reason we do that is there's a very powerful feature we can use called filters. And you can find that under the data menu, and you can turn it on by clicking on filter. Now you'll notice a little drop-down arrow has appeared beside each of the columns. So if I wanted to filter for, say, just my Vancouver data, I click on the down arrow, but you'll notice I don't see any options below that for selecting. And that's because the filter is smart enough to know that there should be a filter applied on this row, but because of this blank row, it's not smart enough to pick that data up. So we're going to delete that row. So you want to always have your data in a consistent row structure. Turn the filter off, turn it back on again. Even though I'm in a section here, turn it on the data row, we're going to turn that off. And again, select the header, and now apply that filter again. And now with the filter in place, I can go in and now select that data. Okay? So very simple how to apply a filter in a data layout in Excel. Now, of course, what's going to happen is a manager is going to come along and they're going to say, well, I'd like to look at this information, please, in a summary, and I don't really need to know about the date or the description, and I'm only interested to know what are the sales by location. So there's a variety of different techniques we can use in Excel, but for today, we're going to be inserting a pivot table. So you notice right now, everything I've set up is being created in sheet 1. And for today, we're going to go and insert now a pivot table. So in the insert menu, click on pivot table. And because the cursor was already selecting a cell within the data range, Excel automatically knows to highlight the entire range. Now in some cases, I prefer to go down to the very bottom where the range is and change that to 10,000 rows to ensure that as my data expands over time, that'll always be incorporated into the range for the pivot table. You can set it up to 100,000. In this version of Excel, we're saving this as a binary file. We can do up to 1 million rows of data. So there's a lot of power within Excel with this version. And on this example, we're running 2016, but this applies in all versions going back to 2007 for Excel as well. So now that I've selected my range, I click on OK. And Excel is going to automatically add a new sheet for me. In this case, it's sheet 2. And you can see it's preparing the elements for pivot table 1. Over on the very far right-hand side, I can see my headers are appearing automatically. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell the pivot table what information do I want to appear on the rows, and then what are the values that I wanted to pick up. So in this example, the manager is asked to see what are the sales by location. So I'm going to specify my location. I'm going to click it. I'm left-clicking in this particular case with my mouse and drag it down to my rows. And that tells it to put it in the row layout. Next, I'm going to pick up the dollar amount so I can find out the sales by location. And I'm going to pick that up as the values field and just click and drag. And you can see now automatically it's added that under the values. But there is one little flaw in Excel is by default, it tends to pick up most values as a text, and it tries to count that information for you. That's the default. It's going to count the value or the amount in this particular case. And that's not what we're looking for. It is nice that we can see that we sold 5 different things over this period of time, 1 in Los Angeles, 2 in Seattle, and 2 in Vancouver. And if I go back to my sheet for a moment, I can see that, yes, that's exactly what happened. But for today, I want to show what these amounts would look like in total, not as a count of them. So all I do is I come down to my value, I click it, left click it, and I select my value fields. And at the top here, I select sum instead of count. And I click on OK, and now I can see it's going to count that information for me as well. So that's just a very quick example of how you can now take information in Excel in a standard data layout, organize it however you wish, and then create a pivot table to give you a summary of that information. Let's do one more just to wrap things up for today. So we're going to create another pivot table. In this particular case, because the data is already there, and I've already got one pivot table created, I'm going to take this pivot table and copy it. Just press Control-C on my keyboard. I'm going to copy it over to column E. So I've got now a duplicate pivot table. So it's nice to have 2 pivot tables, but in this particular example, I want to have a breakdown of this information, but I want to look at it by date. So instead of location, I'm going to take away the location by dragging it back up to the select field. And I'm going to now drag down the date field into the row structure. So there you can see, I can now tell you what the sales were by date specifically. But what's really good about Excel is it's going to interpret these dates as values, so it allows me to filter them. So if I want, I can find out what did I sell for a particular date range. And simply by clicking on the down arrow, you can see that those options are available to select or deselect those dates. So then I can just see what happened on a particular day and select that. And let's just make one last change to our data to really add some fancy information for us. We're going to go to the bottom here. We're going to put another date, another sale in here. Let's put that as the 1st of August, 2016. And we'll do that in Los Angeles again. It's going to be another item sale. And we'll do that for $80. And we're going to come back to our sheet where our reports are. You'll notice that these amounts haven't changed. So I just right click and refresh. That'll refresh the tables because they're both based off the same data layout. They both refreshed at the same time. And you'll notice that August has now appeared here. But you'll notice as well, when I click on my down arrow, I can see that month is there, which gives me the ability to filter for that month as well. So that's how you update your data and then refresh that accordingly. Hopefully that gives you a good understanding of how to create a data layout. As a reminder, just to always set up a header row with your data laid out below that, nice and neatly and organized, no blank rows. And then you can now add a pivot table to analyze that data as well automatically. That concludes today's video. If you have any comments, please leave them below. Or if there's other demonstrations you would like to see, please make a comment below as well. And we'll add videos for you over time so that you can learn more about some of these advanced features that are available in Excel. Thanks again, and thank you for watching.